Welcome to Podsauce, your podcast discovery show. I'm Dax Holt.
Today I'm Alesha Renee.
Today I'm Alesha Renee.
I might morph into something else pretty soon.
Listen, we are a podcast discovery show. We're here. Let us be the source of all things podcasting for you. Recommendations, reviews, host interviews. We have our finger on the pulse of podcasting, and we want to bring you all in.
That's a fact.
That's
we are the sage wise ones.
And we have a huge show today.
We do. It's fully loaded. I'm so excited because our guest on the show, we have Charlamagne the God. I would say host of Brilliant Idiots, but he also is a part owner in The Black Effect. We've had some of their podcasts on here previously, but for now we have a podcast that goes under our Health is Wealth category. For those of us who have been with the show, you guys know what this category is all about. But if you're new, Health is Wealth is just basically everything and all things podcasts that pertain to increasing your health, your mental health, focusing on your mental health, increasing your wealth, your financial wealth. So all those things. This particular podcast is called, it's an NPR podcast.
Oh, okay.
Remember one of our previous episodes?
Podcasts.
Yeah, we had talked about our dual love and NPR podcast. This one is called Life Kit. So it's all encompassing. It has different episodes about relationships and work dynamics. The episode I first listened to as I was scrolling had to deal with depression and anxiety in the workplace. And these times, especially as a lot of us are transitioning from working at home predominantly over the last 2.5 going on 3 years as we all globally navigated the pandemic, to now getting back in the workspace, that has provided a lot of anxiety for people to be around an influx of people, because you just don't know, right? If you've done your best to keep you and your family safe, and now you're introducing your person into the workspace where you could potentially bring something home. So they talk about those different dynamics and how to navigate that, how to navigate if you're just not okay and you can't show up for work. Or if you have to push through work, different tools. So Life Kit is just essentially a hack. One of the episodes is how to get over an ex, not cyberstalk. We can start there.
Don't go through all of their Facebook
Stay
photos.
off the gram. And I wish I had listened to that episode because I have an ex that I for sure, every time I saw one of my friends, remember when Instagram was letting you see like
all
what's
the
your
likes and stuff? Yeah.
I was like, girlfriend number one, you got time to be over here double tapping on such. When I'm done, sis, you're done. Like 50 Cent said, you need to act like this is G-Unit, baby, okay? If I'm over them, you're over them. So, that's the Cliff Notes version. But yeah, Life Kit is my Health is Wealth podcast pick that I feel you guys will enjoy and hopefully walk away with some tools.
And like we said before, I have never been led astray when it comes to an NPR podcast. I feel smarter listening to them, and I always take away something from them. So very good recommendation there. Don't go anywhere, guys. We got so much more coming up. This is Podsauce.
Welcome back to Podsauce, your podcast discovery show. I'm Alesha Renee.
And I'm Dax Holt.
Dax, this is the time where you attempt to.
This is the time where I shine, is what you're trying to say.
This is where you attempt to recruit people over to Daxland with your podcast pick recommendations. Now, Dax and myself, we will oftentimes bring you guys our podcast picks. It's a podcast that we're already enjoying. Sometimes it's a podcast that's recommended to us. Some of us, more than others, take recommendations because they don't know these podcast streets like some of us.
Sometimes what I'm hearing is excuses why I'm in the lead of recommending great podcasts. So let's get into it so I can get another point for my board. So my podcast pick for this week is called Beyond the Blinds.
Talk to me.
You know I love celebrity stuff. I've been doing it for many years. Well, this one is all about blind items about celebrities throughout the years. So if you're into blind items, if you don't know what a blind item is, it's basically information, and it could be very salacious information about celebs without revealing their name. However, in this podcast, it's older blinds that were a long time ago, and then they reveal the name.
Ooh, spectacular. Like in the James Dean time frame or something
No,
like
I'm
that?
talking. It may not be today's blind item. It might be just blind items, and they'll do a topic like a celebrity, and it'll be all blind items about Jennifer Aniston.
Ooh.
And so they'll talk about her time with Brad Pitt or the time on Friends, like all kinds of stuff.
Give me some tea.
Well, so here's the thing. I became familiar with the show because I was a guest on the show a while back. And
Was
then,
that a shameless plug?
I mean, it
Is
can
that
be a
what you just
shameless
did there?
plug, but they had me on, and that's how I first discovered them. So, and I was like, oh, this is a great idea. This is really fun. And so we started talking all about blind items. But I went to one of their live shows recently in LA,
Oh, dope.
and it was all about Scientology.
Oh.
I mean, they may not be around anymore after that show.
Right.
But nevertheless, it was fascinating, all the blind items about Kirstie Alley, Tom Cruise, John
What did
Travolta,
they say? Give me some tea.
David Miscavige. Well, you'll have to go listen to the podcast because I will let them say all those allegedlys
Fair.
rather than me.
Dax,
But
tell me you don't want the smoke without telling me you don't want the smoke.
but it's a fun podcast.
You're gonna sip a
Buckle
tea or
up.
two.
You're in for sipping tea on a podcast, and so feel like you're going back to
I love
chat
high
with
tea
your
time.
girlfriends is what you feel like.
I love high tea time. Beyond the Blinds is Dax's podcast pick. I must say.
You're giving me another point, aren't you?
No, I'm giving you 1 point. I'm giving you a point for that one.
Okay, so
It's not another point.
9,251
We're going to
points.
put Dax's
All right.
podcast pick up on our webpage, podsauce.com. But also, since you're in these interweb streets, venture on over to our YouTube page at youtube.com/podsauce, the Podsauce, excuse me. While you're there, hit like, subscribe, so you can see all of this flavor we're kicking in your ear live and in color. Well, one of us is. One of us is in
Go
color.
anywhere. We got so much more coming up. This is Podsauce. Welcome back to Podsauce, your podcast discovery show. I'm Dax Holt.
I am Alesha Renee, and our today's guest.
Look at you're so giddy. I love it.
I feel like you, when you had Adam on, your co-host on Hollywood Rock, because that's your people, that's your family. I got my people, my family on today's show, but he's not just my people. He is a New York Times, 2 times New York Times bestselling author, Radio Hall of Famer. You guys get him every morning on The Breakfast Club. I mean, the list literally goes on. I am talking about none other than Charlamagne the God. What's up, bro?
What up, Big Leash, my sister? How are you?
Blessed, black, and highly favored.
I'm good,
That's
man.
how I am.
Absolutely. Blessed, black, and highly favored. Yes,
All
indeed.
day. I was really excited to get you on, bro, because as a podcast discovery show, I felt that no one else quite like you can speak to the importance of podcasts as someone who not only has The Brilliant Idiots, The Breakfast Club in podcast form, but you also own Black Effect, which is a partnership with iHeart. So you house so many other podcasts under your umbrella. We've had a few of your people on here. We've had the Trap Nerds, we've had Flame Monroe. No one like you can speak to the importance of podcasts, so I want you to take it away. Why Black Effect, your podcast imprint, and then talk to us about what goes into the people you choose to go under your podcast umbrella.
You know what's crazy? I was arrogant to podcasts back in the day because I remember when my guy, Chris Monroe used to run the Loudspeakers Network. So Chris was kind of like really early on when it came to like podcasts and podcast networks. So he had like the Read and the Combat Jack show. And he kept telling me, you should start a podcast. And I literally said, why? I'm on the radio every day. I was like, what's the point of starting a podcast? Like, I don't get it. I feel like podcasts are for people who can't, get on the radio. But, luckily I wasn't too hard-headed. And so, we launched The Brilliant Idiots. And for me, it was a opportunity to allow Andrew, who's one of my good friends, to express his very unique POV, which the world has, finally gotten to hear on such a large level, my man Andrew Schultz. And so when we started doing that 8 years ago, well, people didn't know that I was always a part owner of the Loudspeaker Network. So I kind of was, already watching how to establish a podcast network, how to get ad revenue in regard to having a podcast network. And then I just started seeing all these other podcast networks launching, the Gimlets and the Anchors and the Ringer. And I just said to myself, there's nobody doing that specifically for Black voices. It felt like all the Black podcasts were like scattered, you know, all over the place. And a lot of brothers and sisters wanted to launch podcasts and didn't necessarily know how. So when it came time for me to re-up my deal with iHeart, I was like, look, you know, this is what I want to do. And I know somebody's going to partner with me in doing it, so why not do it with the company that I've been in business with for the past 12 years, and they're the biggest audio company in the world, which is iHeart. So that's just literally where the idea for the Black Effect came from, just seeing that there was something missing in the marketplace. There was no, you know, hub for like Black voices. And I always say I want to be to podcasts now what BET was to Black voices in like the 90s, early 2000s.
With Black Effect obviously growing as much and as fast as it is, I'm curious if there is a podcast that you've signed on recently that maybe isn't as big, but you know it's going to be one of the biggest podcasts out there and people should tune in now to get in on the ground floor?
Oh, that's a great one. I think I believe Trap Nerds. The reason I believe Trap Nerds is just because like there's a big Black comic book, science fiction, you know, fantasy community. Like, you know, we love science fiction and fantasy just like everybody else. And they're like one of the few people having those conversations and bringing those Black creators on that are in that comic book space and in that science fiction space. So I think in the next couple of years, as the comic book industry continues to grow, they're talking about the comic book industry is going to have some of its biggest years financially over the next couple of years. I think you're going to see them grow. And I think my two homegirls from South Carolina, you know, AJ and Tam Bam, We Talk Back podcast, you know, they're actually doing really well now. Like, I mean, they have over like 1-point-something million downloads in a year. So they're already like bubbling and, you know, growing in audience. And I think if we start to do more live shows and, you know, they start to, you know, start doing cross podcasts with other people, they're definitely one to watch as well. So
you say that all the time. You encourage a lot of the people who partner with you in their podcast spaces to just be themselves and that they're enough. But you also say that to me personally, intimately, you know, Leash, you're enough, and never forget that. To hear someone on your level that's showing up as our most authentic selves, whatever that looks like, is more than enough. And that's the thing that's going to get you to that success. Hopefully will translate well with our listeners as well as our viewers.
I'm going to have to give you my number, so every once in a while you could just send me a "you're enough" text too. Just when you do it to Alesha's like, here's one for Dax as well.
Send one on, put it on a group chain.
So obviously we are a podcast discovery show. Our big thing is taking people's recommendation and spreading them out there so other people can learn about them. Do you have any podcasts that you're super into that you would like to tell people definitely check out?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a podcast junkie. So there's things that I listen to every week. I listen to All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson every week. Like, even if you're not into, you know, sports in that way, it's just like to hear, you know, these athletes, especially these NBA players, come on and tell these like really intimate stories, these really personal stories about how things were going on in the locker room. Man, that is just like incredible. And they got, if I'm not mistaken, they have the last interview with Kobe Bryant.
Wow.
I love Debbie Brown, you know, Dropping Gems podcast. That's another good sister of mine, but she really is, man, she's one of those people that will really help get you through, you know, if you're trying to just be more mentally healthy or more spiritually healthy, you know.
I've talked about her on the show. I actually want to get her in studio. We know you're New York based. I want to get Dev in studio whenever she can sit still long enough. Dev
definitely needs to be in. Of course, Drink Champs. You know, I love Drink Champs because I think Nori created a lane for himself that was unoccupied because he was celebrating, you know, all of the older hip hop artists who, you know, weren't getting those looks on big platforms like they probably should have. And he's like Charles Barkley or Kenny Smith, right? Because they're Shaq. They're former players who the NBA guys really respect, but now they're doing the commentary about these NBA players, and it's the same thing with Nori. He's an OG hip hop guy who all the OG hip hop guys respect. So, you know, he's sitting there drinking and they smoking and they getting really, really loose, and the conversation is just different. Man, I listen to so many different podcasts. Like I still check for the read. Like I said, We Talk Back podcast, Horrible Decisions, Brilliant Idiots. I don't listen to my own podcast, but you know, I think that, you know, we've been around for like 8-9 years, and it's people that really like what we do.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Charlamagne the God, host of Brilliant Idiots. Really, the list goes on. The Breakfast Club podcast, but also owner of Black Effect.
God's Honest Truth.
God's Honest Truth on Comedy Central. Make sure you guys check that out. You really cover the gamut when it comes to the audio and entertainment space. But most importantly, you provide so many platforms for other people to shine and use their gifts. So this was such a huge interview for us. So thank you so much, Charlamagne, for blessing us with your gems and your wisdom.
Thank you, Lee. Love you, Dax.
I
Appreciate
love
you.
Love you too. Waiting on that text.
Got you.
Dax, you ain't getting that text, Dax.
I'll send it to Lee.
Just so I can keep looking at it.
You simply ain't getting that text, Dax. You guys don't go anywhere. We have so much more coming up right here on Podsauce. Welcome back to Podsauce, your podcast discovery show. You guys are still hanging out with us. We deeply appreciate it. And also, big shout out and huge thanks to my brother, Charlamagne the God, for stopping by and gracing us with his presence and his energy.
Huge interview for us.
Well, yes.
I mean, I feel
Who
like.
would you like to thank?
I would like to thank. I'm just kidding.
What you gonna get me?
Thank you for bringing him, talking him into coming on and gracing us with his presence.
No, I'm
really
very grateful
interview,
he did
yeah.
that. That was really big for us. Char is huge, not just in these radio streets, Radio Hall of Famer, but also in the podcast space. So thank you, bro. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Dax, you got a pick for us.
I got one last recommendation for you. It's an odd pod, because you know odd pods for me are a podcast that are unusual. Maybe they cover unusual topics or things that, you know, aren't your standard podcast things, okay? My odd pod for this week is called Uncanny.
Talk to me.
Let me just tell you, this recommendation came in from Angie. She said, check out this. This is going to be great for your odd pod.
Wait, was that your setup of you putting your buckle on behind the bus?
Let me just say.
And then putting it in drive over Angie?
I have never turned off a podcast.
Quicker?
I had to turn this one off.
No.
It was so scary that I had to turn it off.
Oh, really?
It was demons.
She knows we don't play with demons on the... Angie, how dare you?
So, I've legit never been so freaked out by a podcast.
Really?
So that means they're clearly doing something right, but the Uncanny is about UFOs, demons, ghosts, everything. But I listened to the episode called The Evil in Room 611. No joke, the hair on my neck was standing up. I had goosebumps.
Talk to me. What happened, D?
I don't know. I didn't listen to the rest of the episode.
Oh, you meant it.
It was that scary because it was about this guy who was in a room, and basically there was some evil force that he said he could feel that it wanted to hurt. I can't. Go check it out yourself if you like that kind of stuff.
You know what's I so believe you, because remember, first of all, Angie, you have some explaining to do, and you're gonna have to. Fair. I literally was fair. That's Angie, the voice you hear in the background. That is our showrunner, Angie. Because I was thinking in my head when you said UFOs, demons, witches, and galore, I'm thinking, well, why didn't you pivot to the UFOs? That's normally your bag.
So because they had multiple episodes
that demon
about
called you.
This episode.
The demon called you.
So, yeah. And then I started to realize, why am I doing this to myself? I'm going to start having nightmares or start believing the demons at my house. So I had to turn it off.
But wait.
I was like, I'm not letting you in, demons. Get out of here. Get out of here, demons.
Satan. We won't do it. So wait, the part that you did listen to thus far.
The first 5 minutes was interesting.
So what did he say though? Like now I'm curious.
I'm
Like
telling you, he described a demon in his room wanting to hurt him, but it was with like
a hotel room?
the detail of which this demon was in it. Yes,
I believe you.
you could see the sheets moving underneath the.
Hell no.
Yeah, thank you. So
No.
if you're into demons, I bet you will love this podcast.
I bet it's highly rated, too.
Go check out The Evil in Room 611. It is that good, that scary that I had to turn it off.
Hilarious.
So there you go. Check it out, guys.
I thought you were just a white man trying to get out of work. But lo and behold, you actually had a valid purpose. We're going to put Dax's Odd Pod Pick of the Week up on our webpage, podsauce.com. While you are there, you guys can go down the abysmal hole of all the goodies that we have just for you. Our podcast picks, Murder Most Fouls, True Crime Podcast, Sports Podcast.
And things that we don't even cover on this
sure.
show. So you can get lost in content there because we can't talk about it all here. So
Right.
we'll present it to you on the website.
We also have like just news updates. There's so many people that are coming out with podcasts that you may want to be on the lookout for. We're going to give you that insight information there. And while you're there, while you're there on the interwebs, venture on over to our YouTube page, youtube.com/thepodsauce. Hit like, subscribe so you can get updated on all things Podsauce.
And of course, we're all over social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at the Podsauce. You can find me at Dax Holt.
And you can find me at I am Alesha Renee. Until next time, thank you all so much for joining us. Be good to yourselves. Peace.